the years, researchers have found that attachment is really highly embedded. We can even say that genetically we are predispositioned to bond with someone in our life, whether it be one person, whether it be multiple individuals. We are made to bond. One example that I always like to bring up is the duck example. So I think we've all heard this in some capacity, but where if you are in front of a new hatching of a duckling, they will imprint on the first thing that they see. The reasoning behind that and what research shows is that their kind of chemical makeup, their brain is saying like, hey, this individual just helped us crack out of this egg. And this is my caregiver. This is the person that I'm going to bond with. Now, we can see this in all across the animal kingdom, where when new infants, babies, whichever you're looking at, are born, there's that instinctual connection to their caregiver at that time. They know that their needs are being met. They know that they are being fed. They're going to be cleaned. And so this becomes very important to know that internally we have this genetic makeup where we need to bond with somebody. And so it's important to know that that attachment's going to come, and what it looks like is going to determine, if it's healthy or unhealthy attachment. Research has also shown us that there's multiple factors that can impact the way we attach with individuals. Now, not only looking at how it's being exhibited within the home, we also have to look at what are those external factors that can impact that attachment. Whether it's a parent that has to be hospitalized for long periods of times, whether it's some form of trauma, some form of neglect that's taking place, or whether it's just coming from a home that is so disrupted, separated, that that child does not have the option or the time to feed in those connections or bring in those connections to their family members. So we have to also look at how the external factors that our family systems are experiencing is going to impact that attachment. And it's very safe to say that children who are raised in a nurturing home, a supportive home, go further along with being able to have those healthy attachments. And we can also say that when they're in a home that brings on trauma, whether it be personally for them or watching their parents go through something, that also impacts the way they attach. If they watch their parents go through a traumatic experience such as domestic violence, whether it be a horrific car accident, some children may become a little bit more attached, may feel anxious and fearful to leave that parent who has suffered from that trauma. So they feel as if they need to support their parent. So that attachment becomes a little bit more stickier, where there may be other children where the trauma has actually driven them away from creating those connections. And so when we look at these, it's really important to, again, come back to how we're communicating those needs, whether it's a parent saying that they need the assistance and that child just taking on the caregiver role and having those different attachments, or being able to say, you're a child, go live your life. We're here. We have the assistance. But it also depends on where that support is coming from. If we come from a supportive family system, extended family system that is there, then that child does not have to take on some of those responsibilities. One thing that I've always found fascinating is that our human brain develops 95% by the age of 5. That's really, really crazy to think, because we think that we're developing, our brain is getting larger and larger as we get older, but 95% of our brain is already developed by the age of 5. This is where it becomes very important for children within that time frame from birth to 5 years old. They're learning the most that they will learn in terms of the valuable skills that's going to help them become a functioning adult in life, become a functioning child, teenager, just to be able to function in social settings. So that 95% is already developed by the age of 5. So when we focus on the first few years, we really have to look at what does this child development look like? What does it mean? What are they learning? And if they're in a setting which is very traumatic for them, that trauma is really going to impact how that brain is developing. And that's where research has also shown that trauma can impact the way some connections are being made in our brain, how we're emotionally communicating our needs, how we're processing those emotions. So as we look at how the brain is impacted by traumas that we may experience, is those vulnerabilities of the trauma can, the silver lining here is that with the proper interventions, with the proper professional help, seeking a therapist, is that there are going to be changes that take place. There are going to be ways that we can actually maintain a healthy balance with how we're feeling and how we're thinking, and just being able to attach with individuals and bond with those individuals in our life. So know that there are changes, there are things that we can do to help. So for those parents that feel that they've kind of lost everything and that there's nothing that can help change this, just know that there is help, that there is things that we can do with early interventions for children to be able to incorporate healthier attachments. Another statistic that I like to usually bring up as well is the alarming rate that professionals are identifying children having attachment issues. It's estimated about 35 to 45% of kids in the US alone will be impacted by some type of attachment issues. Again, it all depends on personal factors, environmental factors, things that may be out of the caregiver's control, the family's control, the child's control. And so we just have to look at all these things that are impacting us and how that happens. But as I said, there are ways for those attachment issues to be addressed. And sometimes it's just easy as identifying what they look like. Not necessarily meaning that we have to do deep trauma work, or we have to dig really deep into, some aspects of the family system's lifestyles. It's just to know that those 35 to 45% of children can be experiencing from all these factors. And once we're able to pinpoint those factors, it helps us intervene fast enough so we can help them build healthier attachments. So some of the signs that research has kind of identified that we can see in children is most of the time to know that there's some types of attachment issues happening. They may avoid eye contact. They may be disorganized in the tasks that they're doing. They will not be able to and may not be able to or have the skills to communicate their emotional needs. And at times they may be fearful to share those. And so it's really important for parents to be very cognizant of what they're noticing their child do, how they're interacting, especially in social settings, during play. It's very important to be observant of how my child is reacting in certain situations. What does it look like when I leave? How is a child behaving when I leave them with the babysitter and I'm gone for just an hour? What does that look like? And it's also very good to observe if there's two caregivers in the home to figure out, is the child more reactive when one caregiver leaves versus the other? And once we're able to identify these things and you're able to see some of these negative ways of communicating or connecting with other individuals, then we'll be able to see, okay, there's something happening. My child is not able to, on a social aspect, be able to do a certain task. They're not learning to share. They're not learning to be connected, whether in a physical, they don't like to be hugged by their parents, or they may try to push them away. These are just some of the inclinations, some of the things that we can highlight that may be impacting the way we're behaving with our children.